So we're very excited here at the REC to have with us today Stephen Sivitz from SCORE, one of the, if not the premier organization for mentorship here in San Diego and really across the United States. Really excellent organization, and we're just so grateful that he's been a partner, a mentor, liaison, just such a help with all of our startups coming out of the REC. Welcome, Steve. Welcome. Welcome. So I just wanted a couple announcements before we get going on our workshop. And one of those announcements is that we'll be sharing with you a survey that you'll be getting from Patrick here shortly. And Patrick, did you want to tell him about the survey?
Yeah, I just posted it in the chat. So if everybody fills out the survey, you'll have a chance to win a gift and some REC goodies. So yeah, just fill that out and give your feedback on the workshop.
Wonderful, thank you. And then any other announcements that I needed to make, Angela or Patrick?
Nope, I think we're good. Thank
you. I just remembered we have coming up another cohort at the REC. We have a couple of spots left. If you're interested in joining the program, or you know somebody that is, if you could forward them that link, and we'll be putting that in the chat here shortly. And I think that's all. The YouTube videos will be available within usually a day or two, and so you'll be able to come back to this workshop and watch that later, or see any of the others. I think that's it. So Stephen, welcome.
Thank you, Tanya.
So would you like to go ahead and share your slides now?
Sure. Let's get started. First of all, let me say thank you to you students and REC founders for including me in your program. I just want to say I've been doing this maybe a year plus now, and I really find you energizing and inspiring. Your enthusiasm, your commitment, your true drive, and I say this with all sincerity. And I just adore working with Tanya. She just keeps things moving forward. Welcome, Patrick, to the activity. And as you all know, Angela is the REC lifeboat. So when in doubt, call Angela.
Right. It's absolutely the truth. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. I feel the same way. I feel like I try not to cry all the time. They really inspire me, these student founders here at the REC. So I feel the same way, and we're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Very good. So let's get started. And I hope that you all find this, a very beneficial workshop, lecture, discussion, whatever you want to really label it. And while today's presentation is going to primarily focus on selling, hopefully you'll see that it really touches on several other areas that are all part of developing a business or a product. The value proposition, your elevator pitch, customer discovery, product management, all things which are near and dear to me. But I hope you take away from this, you see the intersection of this discussion. So with that, there are some real keys to selling successful, and they're not particularly complicated. And when you think about how you really can sell successfully, you first want to think about the person you're selling to, okay? In many instances, this is, quote, the customer. Other instances, it's the user. Other instances, it's the influencer, okay? But all of them are your audience, okay? All of them are people that you should take into consideration. And you want to be sure that your approach, your discussion, your pitch, whatever you might want to call it, really fits their needs. And then finally, you want to think about how they'll feel after they have heard what you've had to say, interact with you, and digested what you said. So these are some of the key things to think about how to sell successfully. And oh, by the way, did you notice I didn't make a single mention of the product? Keep that in mind. So, what is important? Okay. So let's first of all think about what is selling. Okay. And as a lot of you who've gone to my other workshops will see, this is the way I like to start things out, very fundamentally. Okay. So when you think about what a sale is, it's really a transaction between, two or more, people or parties. Okay. And typically there's a buyer, there's a seller, but there could be others, again, influencers, decision makers, etc. And it involves goods, services, or ideas. And a lot of people don't really consider selling an idea or when they have an idea. So one of the things that I really wanted to find out from you is that I'd like you to take this poll and just let us know, have you ever sold something worth more than $20 to somebody who was not a friend or part of your family? So please just, take the poll real quickly. And as soon as,
Yep, we have
Patrick,
about
as soon as you get some results, if you could, just share those with us.
yeah, it looks like we have 18 out of 25 people who've taken the poll. So
Okay.
give it just
And
another 5
what-
seconds, guys. 19. All right, I'm gonna end the poll.
Okay.
And are the results showing, or there we go.
Okay. 65% of you said yes, you've sold something, but a large percentage, 35% said no, you haven't. And to you that have said no, you haven't, I beg to differ with you. And we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to show you how you really have sold something to someone that you didn't know that was worth more than $20. Okay. And keep in mind, it's not only an object or an item, it's also an idea. So, as an example of the idea, the next time you fail to hand in one of your rec assignments and you try to plead with Tanya to understand, okay, don't ask for forgiveness. Sell her on the idea of why it was acceptable for you to miss turning in that assignment.
Hey, what kind of advice are you giving these people here?
So we're going to talk about how you can get away with it, okay? Because it's a sales activity, okay? So when you think about selling, you want to think about what are the important elements in, a sales activity. Is it the item? Okay. Is it the features of the item or the service? The availability, how quickly can you get it? Today, the hot button in retailing is same-day delivery of things that you order online. Price and consideration, okay? And we say consideration because sometimes you may not pay money for something, but you may provide consideration or something in return for that item or that idea. And then the value, the overall value, okay? So here we have another poll we'd like you to take. So if you can show us the next poll, if you just take a couple minutes. And it's going to be interesting to see the results of this poll because there's a little bit of a trick question. And I'll tell you why.
Good question, yeah.
The most important element in selling something is the salesperson. The other things follow after the salesperson. Okay? And we're going to talk about that. Interesting results you have. A lot of you think the value. Okay? And that's important because that ties into your value proposition. Why would somebody want to buy something or use your service? So we said that the salesperson is important, and the salesperson makes all the difference in the success or failure of a sale. And you've all experienced this. You've all had experiences with great salespeople. You've all had experiences with horrible salespeople. And you can think about just going into a retail store, okay, and the different types of salespeople that approach you, okay, or into, if you've ever had to buy a car, you know, that's a typical kind of scenario of pressure sales, but not necessarily. So when you think about the salesperson, one of the most critical things in being a good salesperson is you want to believe in yourself. And you want to have what I've laid out here as the 4 C's. You want the courage, okay? And that's just another way of, you want a positive attitude, okay? If you're having a bad day, don't try to sell something. It comes across. And again, we've all experienced that, okay? You want to have the certainty that what you are talking about, what you are proposing, what you are trying to convince the other person that they need so that their life is better. You've got to believe in what your offer is all about, okay? You've got to be certain about that. You've also got to have confidence. And I know this is difficult for some people, that they don't like the interaction, or they may only like interacting one-on-one, but not in a large group. But very often sales does happen in a group environment. You've got people there, you've got their influencers, you've got, you know, other people involved in the decision process. So you have to have confidence, not only in what you're selling, but in yourself. Confidence that you are capable and able of presenting the value, of pointing out how your product or service is going to make the customer, the buyer's life better. You also want clarity. Okay, this one, a lot of salespeople get hung up on. Either they use acronyms or terms that the customer doesn't fully understand, or they talk too fast, or they don't talk in whole sentences, okay? English is important. Talking in complete sentences, having good grammar is important. It helps you clearly convey the idea of what you have and how it will benefit the potential customer. So think about this, that when you think about a sales situation, believe in yourself. That's the most important thing. Be very confident in what you are going to be talking about and your understanding of what you're going to be talking about. When you think about the sales activity, okay, salesperson to a customer, there typically are about 5 different styles of sales. The first one, and there's no priority to this, this is just an outline, is the hard worker. This is a person that really is driven, is very detail oriented. They like to get feedback, and they kind of press a little bit. And pressing is not bad. You just don't want to overpress. Then you have the lone wolf. This is someone who really just kind of does their own thing, follows their own instincts, is very confident in themselves, okay? Doesn't need any guidance, doesn't use notes, doesn't use props. Very often uses a lot of hand gestures, okay? Challenge with this type of person, if you're running a sales organization, is the lone wolf tends to be a lone wolf. They don't like to be managed. The third type is a relationship builder. Okay, this one is very typically what people focus on, is build that interaction between you and the customer. Okay, you want the customer to understand that you can relate to them, that you are working to provide them with a good solution. A lot of salespeople work on this relationship building even prior to a pitch. And this could be anything as simply as a smile, a joke, an introduction, is just trying to develop some sort of common ground or interaction between yourself and the customer. The fourth type of selling style is the problem solver, okay? And here again, this relates back to the value proposition or your product definition. What problem are you trying to solve for your customer? Okay, how are you looking to make their life or their situation better? You pay attention to little details, and you use these details to help drive your value proposition and explain how your product, your service, your solution is going to be better for the customer. The fifth kind is the challenger. Okay, this is a person that has kind of a different view of the world. Okay, they, find it going about things slightly different, taking a different approach works for them. They're very confident. They love the interaction. Sometimes it could be a little bit of a debate. Sometimes it's just bantering back and forth between themselves and the customer. But they really work at understanding what the customer's needs are, okay? And that is very important to them. So these are typically 5 different selling styles. One thing that I want to help you appreciate is that your selling style can be flexible. You don't need to be fixated on one particular selling style all the time, all instances, all customers. A good salesperson has the insight to understand and to find the right style that they believe is going to be beneficial for that particular situation, either the customer, the product, or even the environment. So I'd like you to take the final poll, okay? Choose which of these personalities do you think is your selling style? And again, there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just your perception of either the way you are or the way you want to be or the way that you feel you're best suited in a sales situation. Okay, so as soon as we have some results, if we could see those, I think it'll be interesting. And a little bit of self-revelation here. So has everybody completed the poll?
Yeah, so Angela, is it are we still waiting on anybody?
No, there it is. It's just
There it
taking.
is. Relationship builder. Okay, no surprise. No surprise about that. I tend to be all of the above. I change them. I really like being a relationship builder. I often tend to be a lone wolf. And at times, the lone wolf can work against me. But again, it's not right or wrong. It's just understanding what your style is. One of the things that's kind of interesting is that 40% of high sales performers are challengers, okay? And in high value sales situations, half of the sales activity really is a challenger type of approach. But again, there's nothing wrong with any of the other approaches. And that's the way you are. And your comfort level with that, your confidence in that will work to your benefit. Okay, so I was simply trying to point out that there are different styles. And again, you can move from one style to the next. So let's talk about the stages of a sale. And I've got to tell you, selling is simple. Okay, it's easy. It's much easier than baking a cake. Baking a cake, you got to get the ingredients all together. You got to get the mixer out, the bowls out. You got to get the sheet pan. You got to get the parchment paper out. Then you got to crack the eggs. Then you got to pour them back. Yeah, then you got to put it in the oven. Okay, you got to be sure it's the right temperature. Then you got to take it out. You got to put. Oh, you want icing? You know, baking a cake is much more complicated than the sales activity. I'm going to show you why. There's only 4 stages in a sales activity. Okay, the first one is you want to prepare for the sale. Okay, and it's important that you are passionate about what you are going to be selling. Again, whether it's an item or whether it's an idea. If you don't have the passion, you're probably not the best person to have that role of trying to sell that item or that information. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with passing on it. I know a lot of business founders, product inventors that are not good at sales. What's important, though, is that they recognize that they are not good at sales and they find somebody who is. And part of it is that they are not passionate, okay? Or they are overly passionate. We'll talk about that. You want to really understand your product, okay? You want to be educated about the product, the pros and cons. One of the most embarrassing thing is for a potential customer to point out something about your product that you didn't want to talk about or you feel was a detriment, okay? There is also, on the counter of that, there's also nothing wrong if somebody asks you a question about your product and you're not sure of it. Acknowledge that you don't have that answer for them, but that was a very good question and you'll get back to them on it, okay? Nothing wrong with that, because that also demonstrates your honesty and your rapport with your customer, okay? Understanding your customer is important, okay? You need to sell it to the right person. Now, a lot of people think that they know who the customer is. And the customer really is the person who is ultimately going to hand you money or some sort of compensation for what you're offering, okay? They may not be the decision maker on it, but they are the one who are going to write the check. So very often in a corporate environment, you're pitching your product, your application to the person that's leading the sales group, but your real customer is the person in the purchasing department or the person that is managing the budget for that sales department. They control the purse. They control the money. They are your customer. I'm not saying you don't have to pay attention to the influencers or the users, but it's important you understand who is your customer, who's paying. Also, you don't want to use force for a sale. One of the important things to appreciate when you get started in a sales discussion is if the person's not interested, let him go. Time to move on. You can say about this about a lot of things in life, but especially in a sales activity. And you should have this litmus test within about the first 30 to 60 seconds, that you should be able to tell, is this person at all interested in hearing what I have to say about the product that I want them to buy? And then finally, again, you want to be very well educated about your product. You want to know the details, all the little details. You may never use some of the details, but you'd be surprised how if it comes up in a conversation, you might impress somebody by knowing what that particular knob does on that particular widget. The next stage is making the sale. And I coined this phrase, a good person knows when to stop talking, a good salesperson rather, knows when to stop talking. And believe you me, so many salespeople just blow right past this idea, myself included. Okay, I'll admit it. But you don't want to monopolize the interaction with your customer. Okay, you want to realize when they have made a decision, good decision or bad decision. You also want to realize, are they relating to you? Watch the body language. Okay, are they smiling? Are they turning away from you? Are they looking at a notebook while you're making your presentation, your pitch? On this same vein, you don't want to control the conversation. Okay, one of the most important things to do is to get feedback. Listen to the customer. Understand what their questions are. Let them talk about what their pain is, what they like, what they don't like. A lot of this sounds like customer discovery stuff, doesn't it? Okay. You want the customer to talk to you. You want to pick up on things that they say because what they tell you is important to them. And hopefully you can leverage that in your sales discussion. Build rapport. Again, this starts, in a retail environment when the person walks into the store. And that's why it's important that you approach that person, with a smile on your face. Okay, you look presentable. You look like you're not annoyed that they're interrupting you from something else that you may have been doing. Okay, body language like that is important. People pick up on it. Also, a good salesperson doesn't start off right away trying to sell you on something. They try to understand who you are as a potential customer. What do you like? What you don't like? Can you relate to each other? Okay. Are you both Steelers fans? Okay. And if so, that could bring you very close to easily coming to an agreement that you've built some sort of rapport around something. It doesn't necessarily have to be the product, but just rapport between you and the customer. Being honest, I shouldn't have to say this, but frequently it's needed. You got to be honest with your customer. Okay. And some of the things that I have done that have really kind of built the rapport and the confidence between myself and the customer is if I know a product that I am pitching has a shortcoming, I'll actually point that out. But I will also have a position to explain why it's that way and why they shouldn't be afraid of it. Okay. Yeah, this product is expensive. It is the most expensive widget on the market. But when you see how it's going to help you with your issue of taking care of your work activity at home, your scheduling, you're not going to mind paying more for this widget. Okay. What I did is I pointed out a shortcoming that other people have brought up to me that my product or my service has. But I've tried to leverage that and say, yeah, I recognize it, but here is the benefit. Here's the value that it brings you. Okay. A Rolls Royce, very, very expensive. And they know it, but they will tell you there is no automobile in the world that is as quiet as a Rolls Royce. Okay, none. And this has been tested time and time again. Okay, a lot of people value that. Final point is be sure that you validate your audience, your customer. Okay, help them feel that you understand the importance of their decision and their purchase or their dilemma with their purchase. Okay, don't minimize it. Be sympathetic to it. and try to help them work through it, okay? You're also, again, doing, you're building rapport with them. You're showing them how you are wanting to help them resolve a problem, fill a need. Okay, the sales tactics that you use, okay? One of the most important ones is to try to directly relate the conversation and the pitch to the customer. The example that I have here is you don't want to use phrases such as, well, I think that you will, okay? Or let me tell you. The better approach is personalize it between the product and the customer. You're going to love this widget because it makes your work activity at home a lot easier, okay? You're going to love this Rolls Royce because you're going to find it so quiet and so soothing when you get inside. You can shut all the hustle and bustle of the rest of the world out, okay? Make it about them. Back to building the rapport, okay? You also want to be sure that you get to the value proposition quickly. Point it out to them why this particular product is the obvious choice for them, okay? Talk about the competition, okay? But because you have prepared yourself and you're very well educated on your product and the others, you're going to be able to point out to them why your product is the obvious choice for them, okay? Why it's going to improve their life, why it's going to solve a problem for them, okay? That kind of sounds like a value proposition or a customer research, okay? What problem are you solving for the customer with your product? Keep in mind that features get people's attention, but they pay for benefits. And I've used this in other presentations. And as an example, for those that may not see the clarity in this, the feature of a water bottle that's triple wall aluminum with foam insulation, okay? Those are the features. The benefit is it keeps your drink cold longer or hot longer. People don't pay for the triple wall aluminum construction. They pay for the benefit. Same thing with a smartphone. It's got a color LCD. That's a feature. The benefit is you get a much more vibrant and exciting video experience. That's the benefit. That's why you pay $300 or $400 more for a smartphone with a high resolution screen. The other thing in the sales is keeping it simple, okay? If any of you are familiar with the movie Forrest Gump, and one of the famous lines from there is, life is like a box of chocolates, okay? Well, for Forrest Gump, it was Tom Hanks, it was because whatever you pulled out was going to be tasty, was going to be good. But sometimes a box of chocolates can be very confusing. You got so many different choices. You don't know what to take. You don't know what's inside of one versus the other. So in your sales tactics, you don't want to have lots of options. Okay, you want to point out, this is why the product is good. These are the things that the people will appreciate. This is why it'll make their life better. When you go to close the sale, this is the easiest part. You want a direct, no-nonsense close, okay? One of the most important things to do in a sale, again, whether it's a product or an idea, is you want to acknowledge their final decision, okay? I'm glad to see that this Rolls Royce really fits your needs. And I'm impressed with the idea or the feeling that you have that you really want a very quiet environment, okay? You acknowledge the close, you acknowledge why it's going to benefit them, why they like it. And then finally, please say thank you. And this may sound trivial, but you'd be surprised when you're done with a sale with somebody, they're going to remember that. Okay. They're going to remember having bought something from you. And you don't know who they're going to talk to next. Another potential customer, somebody else that you may have an interaction with. And what you want the customer to feel after the sale is that they were appreciated and you recognized the value that they had as a customer to you. So please say thank you. So the essential tips in selling. Again, keep in mind, the first thing that you are selling is yourself. Okay? Be confident, be assured, be very clear in how you're going to approach and sell your product. Okay? What are the elements that you're going to highlight early on? What are the ones that you're going to have to really explain well, but clearly? Okay. Secondly, know who you're selling to. Okay. And I'm going to use something that all of you probably are thinking about in starting your own businesses is some sort of pitch competition. A pitch competition is a sales activity. Okay. And one of your colleagues at the rec, the founder of Pedestal, he knows this. Pitch competitions are sales activities. So when you think about going to a pitch competition, see if you can understand who the judges are, what their backgrounds are. If you've got somebody that's an accountant on the judging panel, you probably can be assured that they're going to focus in on your financials. Okay? If you've got somebody that's a scientist or a technologist, you probably can be assured that they're going to focus on how your bits and pieces come together to make your product. Okay? Know who you're selling to. And I'll give you a personal example. I haven't bought clothes for myself in 30 years. My wife buys everything. She thinks that my taste and my style is terrible. And a year ago, we went out and I needed a new suit. Went to the department store. I started with her. We started talking to the sales person. And in about 30 seconds, the salesperson totally turned to my wife and started talking to her because he realized she was making the decisions. She was deciding which suit, okay? She was the customer. I just happened to be the user. Another important thing in knowing who your customer is, not only what are they going to focus on, but can they afford your product? Is it realistic for them? Okay. So, and if not, it's time to think about, do you really want to move on? They can't afford it. Okay. They're not your customer. They're not your target audience. Okay. You should understand that in the customer discovery that you did, that a certain level of discretionary income is going to be necessary for them to be able to take advantage of your product. Know what motivates your customer. This gets back to the idea of what pain do they have? What void do they have? Okay. So you want to understand, how is your product going to ease their pain? Fill that void. And what value will they get when they make the commitment to buy your product? And then finally, listen to your customer. Let them talk to you. This again is another element, just like in customer discovery. You don't want to do all the talking. You want them to talk to you. What do they like? What do they not like? Do they want to think about something different? Do they want to think about it longer? If they want to think about it longer, that's a great opening for you to ask them, well, is there anything more that I could tell you? Is there anything I can answer for you? Or I understand that you want some additional time. So these are some of the essential tips for selling. What I'd like you to think about is here's your checklist for easy selling. first thing you want to do is remember you're selling yourself, okay? You are the key element in the success or failure of a sales. Now, not necessarily always the failure, because you may have missed 1 or 2 points that we had talked about previously. Your product didn't solve the pain for the person, okay? The person couldn't afford your product, okay? So it's not about you, but the way you present yourself, the way you relate to your customer is going to be important. Don't focus on the product or the service. Have confidence in yourself. And understanding the product and the service will come, and the confidence in yourself will help you present the product in its best light. Listen more than you talk, okay? We said this. And I know a lot of bad salespeople that just go on and on and on about the product. And what they again have forgotten is that the customer has already made a decision. Don't ruin it. Don't squash the sale by talking beyond their acknowledgement of the need. Okay. Know who you're selling to. We've talked about that. And again, understand what motivates them. Again, back to what's the pain? How are you solving something for them? How are you making them feel better when they have the product? And then finally, keep it simple. No long oratories about the product. A couple of sentences. Gauge the interest of your customer. Are they tuned into you? Do they understand what you're saying? Do they need to ask a question? Let them talk to you. So with that, that's how you sell air conditioning in Alaska in January. Okay, it's not that hard. It really isn't. It might take some time getting things straight in your own mind and your own approach. But selling is not hard. And with that, I'd like to open up the floor to discussion or questions, and certainly comments.
Thank you so much, Steve. That was great. I really appreciate that really in-depth and thoughtful approach to sales. And I did have a question myself, and I know we have a copy of your slides. Is it okay if I share your slides with?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So then, so everyone, if you look on our YouTube starting tomorrow, you'll be able to access the recording of this workshop, and I'll just put in the comment section a link to the slides. So I know a few of you were asking me to get that, and I'll open it up to the questions from the audience. You can either put your question in the chat, or if you'd like to just ask outright, you can do that as well. And let's see, do we have any questions now on the chat? I do have a comment also, and
Sure.
that's so I appreciate you talking about confidence and talking about knowing who the customer is and the difference between the user and the buyer. One thing that I've noticed is that people will make assumptions about whether or not somebody can buy from them based on how they look and what they're wearing. And very often to their own detriment, especially here in San Diego, where we have a very casual sort of flip-flop society. And so do you have any advice on that or any experience with that?
Absolutely. And understanding whether somebody can afford your product or not can be tricky. You're absolutely right, Tanya. So visual appearance should not have that much influence, okay? And one of the things, there's nothing wrong about asking. And again, this is building rapport with the customer is, ask them, do they have any price range in mind of what they think this type of service or this type of product that they might pay for? Okay, that'll give you a sense. If you're going to be a lot higher, again, don't challenge it. Say, well, what if the product added more benefit to you? Or did additional things? Could you see yourself paying a little bit more? So again, this is again the interaction and building the rapport. Okay, so absolutely do not base your qualification of a person's ability to pay for something on what they look like, how they talk, or elements of their personality like that.
Right. Yeah. I that's great advice. I mean, sometimes just come right out and ask them. Just
Yeah.
come out and ask them, is this in your price range? Is this something that you can afford? I mean, they'll usually tell you the truth. I mean, people don't want to waste their time or your time. And yeah, absolutely. I love this. There's so many nuggets of wisdom in here. And yeah, I think that a lot of people are going to get a lot out of it. So any other questions from the audience? Do we have any, Angela or Patrick?
Actually, I have a question. Could you give any advice on the close of the sale? You have this appointment, you're in front of them, you've answered all their pain points. How do you close it?
People have a hard time with closing. They
So, yeah.
want the right
So
number.
excellent question. And again, it's asking them to give you feedback. Okay. So you've done your pitch a minute or two or 5 minutes, whatever it might be. And one, take a look at the body language. Are they smiling? Okay. If they're smiling, you might simply say, well, geez, I see you found this discussion enjoyable. Could you tell me why? Okay. Or if they've, look confused, ask them, are you confused about this? Okay. Was I clear enough? Did you have any questions about how the product works or how it's being priced to you? Okay. And then at the end, it said, again, nothing wrong with coming out directly and saying, do you feel comfortable enough now of making a decision to purchase the product? And that should give you some feedback. If they say no, then you know what your follow-on question is? Why not? Okay.
Yeah.
So again, when you're closing, be very, if it's a positive close, thank them very much and repeat. I understand you like the product. You're comfortable with the way it's priced and the availability. Thank you very much. Okay. As if it's not a positive close or they're confused, ask them. Okay. Are you ready to make a decision now?
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, so we're pretty much out of time. I just want to make sure, is there any other thing that you'd like to leave them with before we close out this recording, Stephen?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. And anybody else, just so you know, I do occasionally show up at the rec on
Wednesdays?
Wednesdays. Okay.
Wednesday lab hours. We love that. And we thank you for everything that you do. And yep, you're one of our regulars at lab hours. So if any of you have additional questions, that's a good place to get them answered. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And to everyone else, we will see you all again soon at the next rec workshop. And don't forget, it's startup month. So we have a lot of the teams out of the rec pitching tomorrow at the pitch competition. So definitely come to that if you can. And thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Angela, Patrick, everyone who's here. All right, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.